I'm sorry. I'd like to call the April 22 Lake Charles Harbor Terminal District regular meeting to order, if I may. Invocation, Kevin Guidry.
Everyone bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come this evening in the most humble and gracious way we know how, giving you thanks upon all the many blessings you bestowed upon us as your Christian people, Heavenly Father. We ask a special blessing upon this meeting tonight, Father, that we may make the choices that may be for the better of the people in which we serve, Heavenly Father. We ask a special blessing upon this community, this city, and this state, Heavenly Father. We ask all these blessings in your Son, named Jesus. Amen. Amen. May we all face the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone. As the minutes reflect that we have a quorum. Okay, the board encourages public comments and questions regarding all agenda items. Persons wishing to do so should complete a speaker's card, which is at the entrance to the boardroom. When speaking or asking a question on an agenda item, one should, in addition to completing the card, come to the microphone to be recognized. Provide your name, address, phone number. Comments by individual will be limited to 3 minutes. First matter on the agenda is approval of the March 25, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Guidry. I heard for sure. On any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First submission, 2024 -016. Lowest responsive bid of Alfred Palma, rather. Mr. Self, you want to address it?
Yes, Mr. President. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to accept the lowest responsive bid of Alfred Palma LLC for the Calcine dust collectors and electrical feeders rehabilitation at BT1 and to amend the 2024 capital budget. This project was put out for bid in January. We received 3 bids, one from Alfred Palma, one from Keeling Construction, and one from Continental Construction. Alfred Palma was the low bid at $5,375,000. Engineering estimate was $5,400,000.
Do we have a motion?
I move on submission 2024-016.
A second.
Be approved.
Motion by Mr. Guidry, seconded by Ms. Bales. Discussion or questions regarding the submission? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to submission 2024-017. Authorize Executive Director to amend the resolution 2022-006 regarding the professional services agreement of Lanier and Associates. Mr. Self?
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to amend Resolution 2022-006 for professional services with Lanier and Associates to increase the design fee of $237,000 and to include support service fees in the amount of $172,000 plus a contingency in the amount of $50,000 for a total of $459,000 for the Calcine dust collectors and electrical feeder rehabilitation at BT1. In February of 2022, the board authorized the port to enter into a professional services contract with Lanier for the design for the Calcine dust collection system. Since that time, the scope of the project has increased, and we would like to add additional construction support services, which will require an amendment to the contract, as I mentioned a minute ago, of about $459,000.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve 2024-017.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Prudhomme. Discussion, questions?
Nick, is that increase basically due to the cost overrun of the actual bid?
Yes, sir. Due to the cost of the bid, as well as some additional scope items that we added that were more complex than the original design anticipated. Originally, the project started as a simple replacement. We anticipated replacing the dust collection system kind of in like kind, as well as the feeders. But once we dug into the design more and the actual locations on site, it proved to be beneficial to the port to go into a deeper design, hence the additional effort required by the engineer.
And their fee is based, they have a fee structure based on construction cost?
Yes, sir. The construction portion is based on the construction costs and their duration.
Okay.
And the construction portion will be time and material, so we'll only pay for what is actually expensed.
All right, thank you.
Anything additional? Calling the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next matter is 2024-018, regarding an amendment to Resolution 2023-027. Mr. Self?
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to amend Resolution 2023-027 for professional services with Moffitt Nickel for an increase in the construction support service fee in the amount of $398,000 for the City Docks Berth 4, 5, and 6 Wharf and Transship Project. The contract with Moffitt Nickel was authorized in November of 2022 because of a significant number of RFIs, which are basically requests for information from the contractor. The contractor has spent additional time responding to those submittals, and because of that, we're requesting an amendment to their contract. So far, and included in your packet, you'll see that there have been 880 submittals, of which 235 of those submittals have been closed. And so still, even with this amendment, the estimated construction, the design fee is still at about 1% of the estimated construction cost for the project.
We need a motion first. Do we have a motion?
I so move, Mr. President, approve
Motion by Ms. Bales. Do we have a second?
24-8.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. All right, questions, discussion?
Nick, I guess a couple of things. The 880 submittals, that was anticipated going into the project, that many submittals?
No, sir, it wasn't, and we're
Nick,
actually.
I'm going to ask you to raise your voice if you
Sorry,
would.
let me move my microphone. No, sir, it wasn't. That's substantially more, and I think what happened is the number of technical specifications, the contractor has basically assumed that they're going to have a submittal for every specification that's out there. Whenever you get into a building, that greatly increases the number of specifications and submittals. So we're working with the contractor to try to consolidate those as many as possible so that we don't have 880 individual packages. It's still going to be in the hundreds, of course, but we are trying to work with that contractor so that they're not giving us or giving the engineer individual submittals for all the way up to 880. So no, sir, that was not anticipated for a standard building package. We don't typically see that many. You can usually break it down by the number of services, electrical, water, sewer, those kind of things. But they've gotten very detailed in their submittals, and we're working with them to try to be more reasonable on that. So.
And I guess the other thing I noticed, there was 149 RFIs. Is that,
No, sir. For a
who
Seymour,
didn't understand what?
So for a Seymour project, we should not have that many. As you know, we worked with this contractor for 2 years to go through the design process. So we did not anticipate anywhere near 149 RFIs. But from previous, we'd expected, I don't know, say 50 to 100 for a project this size. But, we haven't even really started driving piles yet. We're already at 149. So we, again, we're trying to remind them of that, this was a CMAR project, and they should have already had all these questions answered. But yes, it's just greatly more than anticipated. The good thing is they're not taking any risk. They're wanting answers before they cause a problem or come into a problem. So they are asking to just try to cover themselves, and it's just creating a lot more responses out of the engineer than was expected.
Which is increasing our engineers.
Which is increasing our engineering fee. Yes, sir. And
Do Do you anticipate having to come back and do this again?
No, sir, I don't, and I'm glad you asked that question. I was about to state that while we're asking for the amendment now, we have not expended the original contract amount yet. It's just we're looking at the curve, I guess, how it's been progressing, and we're trying to stay ahead of it. We didn't want to get down to the last dime and then come in and ask for it. We wanted to stay ahead before we expended all that amount. So we still, I think, had about 3 months worth of fee available, but we just, like I said, we're trying to get ahead of it. And we also are, like I said, working on those submittals, so we anticipate the number of those coming down so that we do not have to come back to you again. So, hope that answered. That was a long-winded response, but I apologize.
Good response.
Anything more?
It is what it is.
Well, I mean, being risk averse is one thing. Being unable to make a decision is something else.
Yes, sir. But again, as Mr. Self pointed out, it is still only not quite 1% of the construction cost, so we are still doing well on that front.
Is it your recommendation that the board approve this?
Yes, sir.
I concur.
Concur? Any further discussion or questions? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it. All right, next matter is 2024-019, authorizing the executive director to enter into an amendment to the lease agreement with Magnolia LNG to allow for monthly payments of rent. Mr. Self?
Yes, sir. Magnolia LNG seeks to amend their lease to allow for monthly payments in lieu of the annual payments. You'll recall that in 2020, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, Magnolia came to us and asked if they could begin paying monthly rather than upfront annually. The board approved that in 2020. Magnolia came back in 21, 22, and 23. Each time the board has approved that for 1 year. This amendment will change it for the duration of the lease. And we are in support of it. We're totally fine getting the payment on a monthly basis as opposed to being paid fully up front. But this will amend it so that, it'll basically resolve the issue going forward for Magnolia. They won't have to come back each year and request approval of the board.
Do I understand it provides where it's at their option whether it's annual or monthly?
The original lease required annual payment, and this would, I believe this will just say it'll basically change it to monthly. I don't remember it was at their option.
Have a motion?
Move to approve 2024-019.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion regarding this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, this brings us to the briefing matters. We have a update on Lake Charles methanol. Mr.
Yes, sir,
Miller-
we have Linda Miller.
Linda Miller's
Do
present.
a presentation for us, give us an update.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. So great to be here. I wanted to mention before I get started, I had a meeting today in Baton Rouge that blew me away today. I think when I was here in late January, I reported we were going to be awarded a slate of incentives from the LED. So today we had a meeting with the Fast Start program. Oh my gosh. It was like going to Disney World, all the stuff that they do for companies. And anyway, it's something you, as Louisianans, you could be really proud of. I think they said they're the best Fast Start or program of that nature in the country. They started about 16 years ago, but we were there for like 2.5 hours and looking at all these videos and things that you put together, and I had no idea that it was that scope of activity. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it. It's still, every time I think about it, it just makes me crazy about how great it was. So let's see, there's the presentation. So The first page, oh, I have the first page. You've seen this page before. I wanted to mention one thing that I don't know that we've totally focused about it before, but it's, I think we've mentioned we have long-term offtake agreements. And those two companies, why do they want to enter into an agreement with us? And it's because of our carbon intensity. And we've been working on this a lot, analyzing it, so I just wanted to update you. So the National Energy Technology Laboratory for the DOE has published a carbon intensity for our kind of plant. And it's, I won't tell you the units because I'd probably screw them up, but it's 5.75. And ours is 2.68. And that's a huge difference. It's like 50% lower. And it's because of decisions we've made with the project to make it, very environmentally sensitive. One is we use our waste heat, and we've bought a steam turbine, and so we make most of our own power, which means we take less power from Entergy. I think we make 240 megawatts. We only buy 40. So just using your own waste heat, you don't generate more CO2, you don't generate emissions, so that's better. We also use 17% of our syngas, and we flow it through. It prevents us from using natural gas. We use it for the preheater, and that also decreases emissions substantially. And that's one reason why we're 50% below the standard for our type of technology. And the standard they had also had carbon capture and sequestration. So it's all these technology decisions that we made. Plus, if we use certified natural gas for the Haynesville field, that's another 22% reduction. So I just wanted to give you a sense of this kind of project that you're supporting on the port land. So updates. So the first update is related to natural gas. Speaking of natural gas, so we have now signed up all of our needs for the next 20 years with BP, and this allows Sempra to go forward, get their land rights. I think it's mostly from Citgo, 95% from Citgo. And get their permits. It's a construction permit. I think it takes 3 months or something like that. So that's all in place and done. The second thing is permitting. So I think I reported in January we were waiting for our permit to be issued. Because of the change in administration, it didn't get issued until the end of March, and we have a hearing in Sulphur tomorrow. We did not have to file for a PSD permit, just a Title V permit. We had to have a Title V permit because our TAPs, toxic something pollutants, were higher than the standard. And a lot of that is because we're using them to batten down, Channing can tell you more about it, but to batten down the NOx and SOx. So we really have very little pollution. But we filed did all this evaluation and all, and gave all this kind of information. So the permitting agency is quite pleased with us, and so we have our hearing tomorrow. So I'm sure that'll be an interesting event. I have the honor of speaking for the company because I was coming here, so it's easy for me to stay over and speak there. So I'm sure that'll be good. The only reason I agreed to do it is that they can't ask me any questions because I'm not the permitting expert, so that would not be good. But everything, that's going well too. A lot of activity on the financing side. So as you know, we've been working with the DOE. I will say that there is a lot of pressure from a lot of different fronts, including you guys, to want us to close as quickly as possible. And we want to close as quickly as possible. We're targeting, as I mentioned, our last meeting for the end of September. And our off-takers want us to close, our development equity wants us to close, we want to close. And so with the DOE, they're working hard, but we're a little anxious that some of their processes might not allow us to meet that schedule because they may have to update their environmental impact statement. That could take 6 or more months. So we're also working on a bank backup. We have 3 banks identified. We'll have them on board this week, and we're going to work both of these on a parallel path to obtain the debt financing. On the equity side, I think I reported last time we had talked to about 10 different equity parties. We had 8 meetings after that, detailed meetings, 3 or 4 hour meetings, and we have, I'd say, 7 people working pretty hard at looking at it with the idea of getting a term sheet on the equity by, if not the end of this month, by early next month. We have them in 2 or 3 tiers. So we've had a lot of interest in the project. The other, but one thing that has come up, some of the revenues from the project come from various tax credits, 45V or 45Q tax credits. And the federal government, unlike your Fast Start program, is not as quick to move. So regulations have been slow coming out and this and that. And so it's not totally clear which ones we're going to get and for how much. And so the equity wants us to go back to the off-takers and arrange a bridge. And that's something that we're working on right now, too. And we're pretty sure we're going to get these tax credits eventually, and so it's just a bridge. And because of the environmental characteristics that I mentioned before and their desire to close, we think the off-takers, they're already expecting it, so we think we'll get a good reception. But that's something that we're working on right now. We had a call today with Standard & Poor's, and the good thing is they, we're of course always looking for investment grade rating, and it sounds like that's where we're going to be for the operations side. For the construction side, I don't think we're going to get there. It's very hard to get a construction grade of investment grade, but that's a short period. It's important. There were a couple of issues we had to work out with them on the operations side, and we did work them out. So that was a good call, and I'm happy about where we are on the rating side. On the technical side, Technip has wrapped up its design. It's gone out for bid on equipment. It's going out for bid on the modules. I think there's some 90-something modules. I think Turner can handle up to 80 of them. We're hoping a lot of them get placed right here in Louisiana. So that activity is underway. I think we'll have our pricing in July for them. And the other construction areas are related to Phoenix Power Group for the tank farm and various pipelines, and for Orion, who has worked with the port before, on the liquid docks. And we think we'll have those contracts done by the end of June. So that's basically the project update. And then just to mention again the money that the port will receive at closing. The numbers on the top is $2.4 million. That there's an interest component that grows. I show the interest through March of this year. And then, so that's $2.4 million. And then related to rent, we're still paying our rent in advance. So $1.7 million plus the $2.1 million, which is kind of like a closing payment that we had arranged for the port eons ago. So that's what we'll expect at closing. So hopefully, we are working on making it this year. So that's my update. So I'm happy to address any questions you might have.
So if DOE requires an update on the environmental impact, how long do y'all foresee that
Well,
taking?
that could take about 6 months, which means that we would probably not do the DOE and we would go with the banks. And that's why we're gearing them up. And all the banks, what we found is that they have these transition groups ready to finance transition projects, and there aren't any transition projects, energy transition projects, so they are very excited about our project. So I think that'll work out very well.
They'd be looking to step in the place of DOE
Yes.
until that is completed?
Yeah.
That last slide you showed said it was subject to change based upon the final acreage used. Is there anything in the plannings that's suggesting your footprint's going to be different than what was originally anticipated?
I don't think, I think there might be some slight land differences, and Ricky, you probably know this better than I, or at least Jonathan would, but
I think it's
related
mainly
to
on the tank
related to the docks, but I don't think it's going to change.
It's not going to be massive. massive, it won't be a dramatic change, but it's a per acre rent, so as that changes, obviously the
Yeah.
total's gonna change.
What I'm hearing with our group is that we'd like to just keep the whole thing. But there might be some slight change, as I said, because of the liquids docks. Because in our original project, the port was going to build
Yeah.
the docks. And so I don't know that we had identified that particular piece of land. So we might have to just change it for that. Well,
Any
thank you
further
very much, and I can't, thank you so much for your continued support, is all I can say. And we did a lot of work with the port in the last 6 months on geotechnical stuff. You guys were really helpful and arranging for us to be on the site. That work is all done and very important. So we appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We don't really have anything regarding your expense report, so that'll bring us to the Cameron and the forecast briefing.
Yes, sir. So starting with the 3 months ended March 31st, 2024, the port generated revenues of around $11.3 million, which was favorable $100,000. We actually saw lower than anticipated petroleum coke and barite tonnages simply due to timing, and that was offset by some additional income from third-party right-of-way and disposal capacity needs, so ended up favorable about $100,000. Expenses were $8.4 million, also favorable $100,000, primarily due to those lower tonnages mentioned, and then offset by some additional legal expenses associated with the ongoing litigation. Depreciation expense was in line with what we had originally budgeted, and then non-operating revenues and expenses were favorable about $1.9 million. That's due to the timing of the port's contribution to the P3. We haven't put that through yet. And then cash flow for the 3 months ended was $3.6 million. So good 3 months. On forecast one, which includes the 3 months ended January through March, and then a forecast for the remainder of the year, we project revenues to be around $47.3 million, which is favorable to budget about $1.1 million.
Which would be a record for the port.
Right, absolutely. And that's due to some higher LNG tonnage and then higher lease revenue, because we've got some new leases and then CPI adjustments caused that increase. Expenses are expected to be around $33 million, which is favorable $600,000. That's primarily due to the lower overall operating expenses due to the commissioning of our new loader. Depreciation we expect to be in line with budget, and then non-operating revenues we expect to be unfavorable about $600,000. We are seeing lower interest income as we spend our money on all the large projects going on, so that's as expected. And then we anticipate cash flow to be around $16 million, which is $900,000 favorable to budget. So
Probably going to take a moment and just extend congratulations for the top 10.
Yep.
Thank you.
Port.
Thank you.
To everyone
Yeah.
that has an involvement in that, since obviously it takes everyone.
Thank you so much.
But saw your report that was made, Rick, and thought it was well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all. Thank you.
All right. On the balance sheet, kind of the same thing we've been hearing. Things are changing just mainly due to the large projects that are ongoing. Cash is going down and then offset by receipts of cash from recovery funds, reimbursements, et cetera. And then construction in progress is up $22.7 million just due to those large projects that are ongoing. And in your packet with the forecast, you can see we do anticipate being in line with the budget for our traffic, and then for most of the financials are in there as well. Any questions on the financials? All right, I'll move on to the FEMA GOSEP report. As you can see, everything's pretty much stayed the same, except for we did receive another $1.5 million before I dispersed this, and actually earlier last week we received another $7.7 million. So we are getting those funds coming in.
That's good.
And then I'll roll right in. My monthly report, other than continuing our efforts to keep the funds flowing, we're currently evaluating different accounting software options, as our current software will be sunsetting in the coming years. And we have a few companies that we've already met with, done demos, so we're working towards getting a new software, so y'all may see that on a submission coming up pretty soon, and then still working on the 2023 audit. Any questions? Thank you.
Anything for Cameron? All right, Channing?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. One of the best parts of the news that we've moved into the top 10 ports in the nation is the timing. We were able to bring that news up to Washington when the channel users went up for its Begging for Bucks tour, which took place week of April 15th. The short story is, during the 2 days of meetings, we were able to meet with most of the members that we wanted to meet with, a lot of their staffs. We also met with some people you wouldn't expect us to meet with. We had a few minutes with Congressman Graves, and I'm using the editorial we because I wasn't there. I had a medical issue that kept me here, but Ricky and Regan, plus a number of representatives from the channel users were there.
We had a great cross-section, I think, of the channel users. We had, Venture Global, who's not on port property, but does contribute significantly to us, our channel being in the top 10. We had representatives from Citgo, South Louisiana Rail Facility, the port. Is that it? I think that was it. Oh, and we had Cameron LNG
Yeah.
for a couple of the meetings.
Cameron had somebody, and Citgo was there, and the pilots were there.
And the pilots, Brett did a great job. Captain Palma was there and just did a great job each step of the way.
So I can't answer any specific questions about the visit, except to say that, as in the past, nobody brought back a check. But specifics, Ricky can answer if you have any questions, or if you have any questions on my report, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Todd?
Yes, sir. Recently at City Docks, the port handled about 1,500 tons of aluminum hydrate in barges. Liquid ship of the sodium hydrosulfide was about 4,000 tons. Some more project cargo, around 2,400 cubic meters, and 21,346 cubic meters of lumber. On the schedule right now, we've got another lumber ship that's about 15,500, aluminum hydrate ship, which is about 13,000, and another steel ship that's about 5,000 cubic meters. At BT1, recently we loaded about 32,000 tons of raw coke, 8,000 tons of calcine. We discharged 56,000 tons of barite, and about 49,000 tons of bagged cement and fly ash. And one Brooks ship loader showed up. So, finally. Upcoming, we've got another 10,000 tons of raw coke and about 23,000 tons of rutile. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Agree to me. Thank you very much, Todd. Bring us to Terrence.
Yes, Mr. President. Todd and I have been working with a Japanese company that's looking to export wood chips through Lake Charles. They're also looking at doing some log shipments as well. It looks like they want to do a test shipment as soon as we give them space, since we have space right now, of about 50,000 tons. That goes well. We're looking at a ship every 6 to 8 weeks from then on. Also, this week I'll be attending the Breakball Conference in New Orleans, as well as the Offshore Wind Conference, where we'll be speaking on a panel Thursday, Thursday morning for the breakfast. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Nick, on engineering?
Yes, sir. As everybody's been hinting at, we did finally receive our new pet coke ship loader at BT1 last week. After significant delay, it moved from Beaumont on Thursday to BT1 and then was rolled off onto the dock on Friday. Brooks Subcontractors, Beaumac and Deep South handled the move and have been busy ever since, dismantling all the shipping steel and tie downs and all the assemblies. And then we expect about a month to go through commissioning and the final setup of the ship loader itself. But it's still great to have it on our dock. We're optimistic that the commissioning will go well and we can put the new loader into operation. So very exciting and finally here. So I'll also be attending the Offshore Wind Conference in New Orleans this week with Terrence. I'll be speaking on a separate panel trying to bring attention to ports in the Gulf that can handle this new cargo. So that's all I have.
Questions for Nick? All right, any additional lobbying reports other than the written?
I'd like to make a quick comment to the PCAR group. They coordinated all of our meetings for Washington, and I know they've got a lot of clients, but in setting up those meetings and, briefing us and getting us prepared for those, it's as though we're their only client in the world. I mean, they make you feel that way while you're up
Good
there.
feeling.
So I appreciate what the PCAR group did, and Chuck, please share that with Emily, Ward, Curtis. They just did a great job.
Well done. All right, are there any other matters that may properly come before the board? And hearing none, is there a motion to go
Move
to
that we-
executive session?
Move that we adjourn for executive session.
A motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Guidry. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll be in executive session.